Tonight, President Trump laments that he cannot call his daughter or any woman beautiful.
I don't know, they'll say this is nepotism, but the truth is she's a very, you're not allowed to use the word beautiful anymore when you talk about women. You're not allowed. No. It's politically incorrect. No. It's politically, I will never call a woman beautiful again. And every man here, raise your hand. You will never ever say your wife, your girlfriend, anybody is beautiful, right? So I'm not allowed to say because it's my daughter Ivanka, but she's really smart.
The remarks come at a time when the president is toxic to many women voters who once were reliable Republicans. In the latest CNN generic congressional poll, women voters prefer the Democratic candidate over the Republicans 62% to 35%. It's a point that appears to be hitting home for the president. Tonight, in a very unusual move, the president's press secretary, Sarah Sanders, and his counselor, Kellyanne Conway, also appeared with the president at a campaign rally in Indiana. Back with me now, my beautiful panel. Mark Russell, David Gergen, the beautiful April Ryan, the beautiful Joan Walsh, Stephen Moore, and the beautiful Amanda Carpenter.
Thank you very much.
Amanda, the Republican Party is having a problem precisely with voters exactly like you.
Yep.
White, college-educated, once reliable Republicans. Why?
It would help if he could find people who would support him that don't have the last name Trump or are not on his payroll. It seems like he has a hard time doing that. But I think listen, the first day after he was inaugurated, there were huge women's protests in light of worse things he said about women on tape. That was the beginning. And then there's other issues that inform this. The mass shootings that have gone on, Black Lives Matter marches, family detention at the border. I think a lot of those other things that aren't purely captured in an up or down polling question inform that base. And he's just never recovered from Access Hollywood, and it's only gotten worse on those policy issues that are activating women and making them run for office and vote for women.
It's interesting, Mark, because what Amanda just said was not to mansplain, but what I heard from you. Well, what I heard from you is things that the president has said and done that are offensive to women, and inability of him to show compassion at moments when the nation needs it, whether it has to do with Black Lives Matter or the shootings and the rest. And this chasm that the president has with voters like Amanda, who's a reliable Republican voter for any other candidate, this is showing up in the polls, and we'll see if it shows up tomorrow.
Yeah, and not going into too direct of where Amanda lives, but she doesn't necessarily live around a suburb, but it is these type of women, these independent women, these Republican, more centrist types of women who live in and around Philadelphia, where you're from. You know, you look at here around Washington, D.C., right. you know, there's problems. You go out across the country, even into the Midwest. John, you're talking a little bit about this. You go to some of these mid-sized cities where you have Republicans who can't hold on to seats. In Kansas, Democrats may pick up a seat in Kansas. Yeah. That is an amazing moment.
The political map has shifted dramatically. I mean, I've made this case since Trump was elected. The Republican Party is now the party of the working class. So if you actually look at the demographics...
Of the white working class. The working class is multiracial. The white working class,
if you look at those statistics on female voters, it's true Republicans are doing terrible with college-educated women. But if you look at women without a college degree, actually Republicans do pretty well. By the way, we never talk.
Let me
just make one other quick point.
You mean white women without college
white
degrees.
Women who are not. But here's the other point. Why don't you ever talk about the fact that Democrats have a huge problem with white men? I mean, that's one of the biggest demographic groups in the country.
Is a Republican,
and especially uneducated.
The president is on the ballot. He says he's on the ballot, and that's why we're talking about Republicans. Let's talk about those outside of the umbrella, white educated women. Let's talk about black women who are energized by all that they've seen to vote in the opposite direction. Let's talk about other people, you know, black community. They are very disappointed. They feel disrespected. They're going in the opposite direction. You got 8% of the black vote the last time, and this administration is hopeful for 25% of the black vote in 2020. It's not going to happen. And this is the time when you would think that you would do it instead of trying to show that you are concerned or trying to control the browning of America.
Also, we've spent plenty of time talking about and catering to white men. Steve, I'm just not going to worry about them tonight, okay?
Okay. No, but
they're beautiful people, too.
But look,
they are beautiful people,
you
too.
talked about
Some of
some
my
gender gap. Democrats have a gender gap with men.
David, I want to show you a snippet. Obviously, President Trump is aware. Somebody had said to him, you're not doing that great with women voters. This is a problem. You know, maybe this as a security issue will work. And President Trump, as always, reading the stage instructions aloud, revealed that the other day. Take a listen.
Border security is also very much a woman's issue. Women want security. They want financial security, but they want security. Women want safe neighborhoods for their families, great schools for their children, and they want violent predators like we're talking about to be thrown in jail or thrown the hell out of our country.
Do you remember security moms from the Bush era? The idea that you could try to convince all these suburban moms that terrorism was something that George W. Bush would handle. He's trying to do the same thing, except with undocumented immigrants.
I totally agree with that, and I don't think he's aiming at college-educated women. He's pitching this to women who haven't finished college. A lot of women who are struggling. But I think that the problem he's facing is a historic problem. If you try to take away rights from people, they get angry, they get upset politically. That happened. Why did the evangelicals enter American politics back in the 1980s? Because the court ruled on Roe v. Wade and on prayer in schools and took those things away from them, and they got into politics. This is the same thing that's happening here. Women in the suburbs feel, you left out of your litany there, the Kavanaugh hearings and what Kavanaugh represents to a lot of suburban women.
Yeah, I would lump that into me too, but I agree.
But
that issue is also entered.
But it's not just about him giving offense to people, which he clearly does. It's not just about them viewing him as his predator in his own right, as he just started referring to predators. But it is about whether they're going to lose their rights. You know, I talked with someone from Planned Parenthood last night. They are petrified about what this may mean with the court, and they're, of course, going to get angry and active.
Yes. I mean, there is real fear among women, and there's a real desire to be taken seriously and not to be condescended to. Like we're fearful and we need someone to take care of us and we need to be cherished. This notion that you can no longer say we're beautiful. Absolutely you can. And so I
already did. I don't know.
I know. Well, you certainly can.
How many times do you want me to say?
Over and over and over again.
You know, one more time.
I want to say, I want to back Steve up on a previous point because we spent a lot of time exploring Trump's failings. But if there is going to be a blue wave tomorrow, Democratic candidates have to find a way to win in rural areas. We talk a lot about, okay, they've got the cities locked down, they've got the suburbs locked down. Can they win in red, rural America? Until they can do that, the wave isn't going to happen.
Or at least keep the margins.
Stacey Abrams is trying very hard, and so is Andrew Gillum. But it's a different kind of voter.
And that's very true. But let's go back to something that's really base that we just have not talked about on the table when it came to the Kavanaugh hearings. Yeah. Those hearings opened up a wound, a massive wound for a lot of women who look to the president, who look to the moral leader, who look to the leader of this nation to help fix this issue. He said that he felt that she was credible. Dr. Christine Ford was credible, but then he mocked her. And this is the man
like the Kavanaugh hearings have provided the benefit of the Republicans. We'll see how Republicans.
But the women were still hurt by how he treated her.